Many people, upon thinking of Kim Yooyoung, would quickly say, "Yooyoung is so nice." It was the first impression everyone seemed to have of her. For Yooyoung, however, those words had become a chain she longed to break free from, yet lacked both the courage and the strength to do so. Instead, she focused on studying diligently, never straying from the path carefully laid out for her. Even passing the bar exam, an achievement most would celebrate, was dismissed as trivial by her parents. And so, today, the nice Kim Yooyoung found herself waiting for a blind date, her parents' latest arrangement for her. Their instructions echoed in her mind. "You must make him fall for you. Your opinions don't matter anyway. A marriage of convenience is nothing more than a business arrangement. Love is irrelevant. If someone that wealthy and influential wants to meet you, all you need to do is look pretty by his side. If you want to be of any value to this family, you'll marry into a prominent household." As rain poured relentlessly outside, she stared at the droplets running down the window. A gnawing thought surfaced. Would he cancel because of the weather? Or maybe he's had second thoughts. Maybe someone like me isn't what he wants after all. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her reverie. "Hello? Where are you?" she asked hesitantly. "I'm already here." Yooyoung let out a quiet sigh. It seemed the date would happen, rain or not. "I'm sitting by the window," she added. A moment later, she looked up to see him approaching. Her heart skipped a beat. It's him, the man from last night. He smiled politely. "Hello. Have you been waiting long?" Flustered, Yooyoung shook her head. "Oh, no, not really." He gestured toward the rain. "I'm staying at this hotel, so I got here quickly, right?" She managed, her voice softer now. "My name is Kim Yooyoung." He extended his hand, introducing himself. "I'm Cha Jihoon." As their hands met, a pang of unease struck Yooyoung. How did my one bad deed lead to this? She wondered, recalling their last encounter. "So, that's your name," Jihoon remarked, a hint of curiosity in his tone. "Does it really matter?" Yooyoung replied, brushing it off. He looked at her with steady eyes. "It does. What matters now is that we know each other's names." Kim Yooyoung often reflected on the life she lived, a submissive, unremarkable existence that had grown stiflingly dull. For once, she craved rebellion, a fleeting escape from the mundane. But as she nursed her drink at the hotel bar, she realized even this defiance felt awkward and out of place for her. "I'll just finish this drink and go back to my room," she thought to herself, staring into the amber liquid of her Glen Moray on the rocks. She hadn't noticed how long her gaze had lingered on the man seated a few stools away. His tailored suit couldn't fully disguise the strength in his frame. His slightly disheveled hair and sharp features gave him an air of cold intensity, one that seemed to caution against staring. Yet, Yooyoung couldn't seem to look away. "I came here to let loose," she mused, "but he's clearly not the one. We're worlds apart." Breaking her thoughts, the man suddenly addressed her. "How do you like the whiskey?" he asked, his voice smooth yet commanding. Yooyoung blinked, caught off guard. "Oh, it's good," she replied, though the truth was she couldn't tell whiskey from water. He offered a faint smile. "I also like single malts. But isn't it a bit strong for you?" She hesitated before nodding. "Honestly, it kind of is. You should try it, twice up. It's an equal mix of water and whiskey. Same aroma, but easier to handle." "Oh, I see," she murmured, feeling increasingly out of her depth. Her instincts screamed that this man was dangerous, not in an overtly menacing way, but in the way his confidence and charm seemed to pull her in. "Did you come here alone?" he asked, his piercing gaze holding hers. Yooyoung nodded hesitantly. "Then may I sit next to you?" She knew this wasn't a man she could easily handle, yet her resolve faltered. Against her better judgment, she didn't refuse. Cha Jihoon rarely interacted with strangers. Even during his brief visits to bars, he avoided unnecessary conversations, particularly with women. But this woman was different. She sat there, clearly uneasy, shifting her posture as if the unfamiliar environment made her uncomfortable. Her hands kept adjusting the hem of her dress and the strap of her top, as though shielding her exposed skin from prying eyes. Yet, There was a nervous energy about her, one that hinted she was scanning the room, unsure of what she sought. She doesn't belong here, Jihoon thought. When she wavered slightly, he leaned forward, concerned. Are you all right? Yooyoung tried to steady herself, but felt her balance falter. The alcohol had hit harder than she expected. Oh. Yes, I'm fine, she replied, though her body betrayed her words as she stumbled. Jihoon caught her, his hand firmly supporting her. Her warmth was unmistakable as she leaned into him. Her half-parted lips and luminous eyes seemed to silently plead for something more, something even she couldn't articulate. Jihoon felt his restraint slipping as he closed the gap between them. Their lips met briefly, igniting a spark that neither had anticipated. I think I should go to my room, Yooyoung stammered, pulling away. She looked mortified. I'm sorry. Jihoon blinked in surprise. Why is she apologizing? I'm the one who kissed her. He nodded curtly. Have a good night, and thank you for the drink. As she turned to leave, he felt a pang of regret. He shouldn't have acted so impulsively. Just as she reached the edge of the bar, she hesitated, glancing back over her shoulder. Wait, she said softly. Since it's raining so much, would you like to spend the night in my room? As the rain drummed steadily against the hotel windows, Kim Yooyoung's words hung in the air, trembling with uncertainty. Since it's raining a lot, would you like to spend the night in my room? Her chest tightened as the reality of her bold suggestion sank in. What am I doing? She thought, her dizziness from the whiskey intensifying. Jihoon studied her carefully, his gaze unwavering. Are you all right? He asked, his voice carrying both concern and intrigue. I'm fine, Yooyoung managed, though her unsteady movement said otherwise. Jihoon frowned slightly, trying to decipher her mixed signals. She says she's fine, but she's not. Is that what she's trying to say? He wondered. Despite her outward awkwardness, Jihoon had formed a clear impression of her. She didn't seem like the type to seek fleeting connections with strangers. He leaned closer, his tone soft but deliberate. What's your name? Her response was immediate but hesitant. Is that important? Jihoon smiled faintly, already suspecting the answer. You're not used to doing something like this, are you? She hesitated, torn. If she admitted the truth, would he stop? Part of her knew this could be her only moment of escape from her stifling reality. But deep down, another part didn't want him to stop. No, she whispered. His touch sent a thrill through her, igniting sensations she'd never felt before. Jihoon, for his part, could sense her inexperience and hesitation. You've never done this before, have you? He murmured. I only want to make this better for you before we begin. Yooyoung's mind reeled. I must be crazy. I've completely lost it. Yet, she couldn't deny how natural it felt to be near him. When she awoke the next morning, a strange warmth lingered in her body. For the first time, she found herself waking up next to someone, a man whose name she hadn't even asked the night before. It had been an unspoken agreement to keep things fleeting, a single moment of rebellion. As she quietly began to rise, Jihoon stirred beside her. His voice was calm but firm. Thank you for staying with me last night. By the way, I'm Cha Jihoon. Yooyoung froze, her breath catching. What? He smiled knowingly. Hello, Kim Yooyoung. Her world tilted. The weight of her impulsive actions came crashing down. What have I done? She whispered to herself. How could I have a one-night stand in the same hotel where I was supposed to meet my blind date? Her face turned pale as the realization hit her. And worse, he's the blind date. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. Don't make any mistakes, Yooyoung. This family needs this marriage. Jihoon may not be the oldest son, but he's poised to take over MGH Hotel. This is your chance. But none of her mother's lectures had prepared her for the man himself, his piercing eyes, his commanding presence, and the way his lips had felt against hers. I can't even look at him, she thought, her heart racing. She finally found her voice, though it trembled. About last night, could we pretend it never happened? Jihoon raised an eyebrow, his expression unreadable. You mean the part where I kissed a girl I just met, spent the night with her, and woke up to find an empty bed? He asked, his tone laced with dry amusement. Well, it's fine that you ran away. I can guess why you did it. Yooyoung's stomach churned. My mother would kill me if she knew, she thought. But she couldn't bring herself to lie further. Jihoon leaned closer, his voice low but resolute. Of course, I can keep it a secret.
But
Her heart skipped a beat. But what? She asked hesitantly. I'll keep it a secret on one condition, he said, his gaze holding hers. Her mind raced. What could someone like him possibly want? He had wealth, power, and charm in spades. What conditions? She stammered. Jihoon's lips curved into a faint smile. I'm not sure yet, he admitted. I'll have to think about it. Yooyoung swallowed hard. She wasn't sure if she felt relief or dread at his response. As Jihoon watched her, he thought to himself, a woman has never run away from me before. Jihoon's calm voice carried an unexpected declaration. I'll have to think about it, he said, referring to the condition that would seal their agreement. His lips curved into a faint smile as he added, a woman has never run away from me before. Yooyoung flushed with embarrassment. I'm sorry, she stammered. But Jihoon waved it off casually. No need to apologize. This has become quite interesting. His eyes sparkled mischievously as he leaned forward. Shall we finish what we started? His words were both thrilling and terrifying. Yooyoung's thoughts spiraled. This man, he's too handsome, too wealthy, and too perfect. Someone like him would never consider marrying a woman who had a one-night stand with a stranger. Yet, the weight of her mother's expectations bore down on her. I just hope she never finds out about this. Suddenly, a staff member interrupted her thoughts. Miss Kim Yooyoung? You seem unwell. Perhaps you should go home. Startled, she nodded. May I? Of course. You look like you need to rest. She exhaled, relieved to escape. It was a pleasure to meet you today. Goodbye. Before she could leave, Jihoon interjected. I'll take you home. Her instinct was to refuse. No, it's fine. I can call a cab or a chauffeur. Jihoon's voice softened, but his tone left no room for argument. I can't let you do that. Not when I'm the one who caused your discomfort. And so, Yooyoung found herself in his car. The ride was unexpectedly quiet until Jihoon broke the silence. Do you still run? I heard you did track and field in high school. Her head turned sharply toward him. How does he know that? No, she replied hesitantly. Not anymore. What was your record? He asked, his interest genuine. It was nothing special. 400 meters in 57 seconds. Jihoon tilted his head thoughtfully. That's 4 seconds behind the country's best. Impressive. Yooyoung shook her head. It's just a simple record. No, Jihoon countered firmly. It's amazing. It's a shame you stopped running when you were so talented. She blinked, surprised. Did you do track and field too? No, he admitted. But I find it fascinating. Most women I meet list hobbies like cooking or ballet. Mid-distance running feels genuine. Yooyoung frowned slightly. Is that why he agreed to this blind date? Jihoon's gaze softened. I hope I can see you run someday. She hesitated. I haven't run in years. Life's been too busy. Do you find it boring to watch people run? He asked suddenly. No, she said, puzzled. I enjoy it. Then I'm sure I'd enjoy it too. His words were simple, but they left an odd warmth in her chest. When the car pulled up to her apartment, Yooyoung hesitated before speaking. Thank you for bringing me home. It's no trouble. She hesitated again. I'd appreciate it if you could forget what happened last night. Jihoon's expression was unreadable, but his voice was steady. Would things have been different if last night hadn't happened? Her heart sank as she realized the truth. No. He's still out of my league. She opened the door and stepped out. Take care and drive safe. As she began walking away, Jihoon's voice called her back. Yooyoung. She turned, her heart pounding. Yes? His gaze was steady, his words deliberate. I just thought of the condition that will make me keep last night a secret. She swallowed hard, bracing herself. What is it? A slow smile spread across his face. Let's get married. I want to marry you, Yooyoung. Jihoon's voice was steady, but carried an air of resolve. I want to marry you, Yooyoung. Her breath caught as she repeated, almost in disbelief, "You want to marry me?" He nodded. "Let's get married." She blinked, her heart pounding as her thoughts raced. "So, I didn't mishear him," Jihoon added with calm assurance. "Of course, only if it's okay with you." Yooyoung struggled to comprehend his intentions. Why would someone like him say this? She finally spoke, hesitant but firm. "I don't understand. We're not a good fit, Jihoon." His gaze didn't waver. "Do you not want to marry me?" She took a deep breath, her voice faltering. "Honestly, yes," he prompted, waiting. "We just met today. And you and I are so different." Jihoon smiled slightly. "We can get to know each other. They say opposites attract." Despite his confidence, Yooyoung's unease grew. "But I don't want to." Her words hung in the air, but Jihoon didn't back down. His voice was calm, yet firm. "You don't know anything about me," she added, her resolve trembling. "He's so perfect it makes my stomach churn." Jihoon leaned back slightly, his expression thoughtful. "I'm an entrepreneur. Intuitive judgment is essential for running a successful company. It's not something I brag about, but I've been on 50 blind dates." Yooyoung blinked, surprised. "Not once," he continued, "did I feel curious about any of the people I met. I left after 10 minutes because they bored me."
"But you—"
His gaze softened. "I find you interesting." Her pulse quickened as he leaned closer. "When you invited me to your room at the elevator, when you disappeared this morning, and even when you waited for me at the cafe with that innocent expression, I couldn't stop wondering about you." Jihoon's voice dropped, his words almost a whisper. "We spent one night together, but I want more than just one night with you." Yooyoung's heart pounded as his words pierced through her defenses. "You avoid eye contact like you're lacking confidence, yet you reject me so firmly," with sparkling eyes. Before she could respond, Jihoon closed the distance between them. Their lips barely touched, but Yooyoung felt paralyzed, as if struck by lightning. He pulled back with a sigh. "I'll head home now. Take some time and think about whether this is really your answer." As his figure disappeared into the night, Yooyoung's thoughts spiraled. "I can't believe I just did that. And in front of my house, no less. What if someone saw Kim Yooyoung?" She froze at the familiar voice. "And mother?" Her mother's gaze was sharp and unyielding. "Don't tell me you let that man touch you in such a vulgar manner in front of our home." "Mother, it's not what you think." But her mother cut her off, her tone cold. "Come inside. I don't want anyone to see you like this." Yooyoung followed her into the house silently, her head hanging low. The housekeeper greeted them, oblivious to the tension. "Oh, welcome home, ma'am. I see you went grocery shopping. I could have helped." "Get out," her mother snapped, throwing the groceries aside. The housekeeper scrambled to obey, leaving Yooyoung stunned. Her mother's fury turned on her like a storm. "Weren't you supposed to go on a blind date today? I even booked a hotel room for you, so you'd be well rested. And yet, you're here, with another man?" "Mother, it's not. How could you be so reckless?" She continued, her voice rising. "I told you, if you want to be useful to this family, you need to marry a man from a prominent family who can help your father's business." Yooyoung flinched as her mother's words cut deeper. "But instead, you engaged in indecent behavior with a stranger in front of our house, where anyone could see you. Have you completely lost your mind?" Yooyoung's mother's voice cut sharply through the air. "Have you lost your mind?" Yooyoung winced as her mother continued, her tone scathing. "Who was that man? What about your blind date?" She took a deep breath, forcing her voice to remain steady. "It went well. That man was Cha Jihoon, the CEO of MGH Hotel." Her mother scoffed, unconvinced. "You expect me to believe that?" "It's true," Yooyoung insisted. "Even if you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do about it." Her mother let out a derisive laugh.
"Ha.
"Well, I'll find out soon enough if you're lying." The next morning, Yooyoung greeted her mother cautiously. "Good morning, mother." Her mother's sharp eyes swept over her. "Are you sick?" Yooyoung shook her head quickly. "And no." "Then why are you coughing?" "I'm fine," she replied weakly. Her mother turned to the housekeeper. "Make some balloon flower tea for Yooyoung." She can't even take care of her own health. Her mother's expression grew stern. We have a guest coming today. Will you be home all day?
Yes.
Should I leave?
No.
Dress nicely and wait. Try not to look so pale, and don't let it show that you're unwell. You never do anything right. Yooyoung stayed silent, her mind buzzing with unease. Later, she peeked into the living room. Where are father and the guest? Her mother sighed. Your father hasn't come home yet? Her brows furrowed. Does that mean the guest arrived first? She froze as she saw him. Cha Jihoon? Jihoon's expression softened when their eyes met. Hello, Yooyoung. How have you been? Her voice wavered. What are you doing here? He smiled. I missed you. Also, your mother contacted me. Her eyes widened. My mother did. Jihoon nodded, his voice gentle. I heard you're an incredible person from a very well-respected family. I just had to meet you. I know it was rude of me, but I couldn't help myself. Is that all right? Yooyoung's stomach churned. How could she invite him over when nothing has been officially decided yet? Her mother broke the silence. I wanted to take this chance to see you when Jihoon came to pick you up. My husband's company is about to sign a long-term contract with MGH. If these two get married, his parents will surely help us out. Her mother turned to her impatiently. So hurry up and speak, Yooyoung. Give Cha Jihoon an answer he'll like. Yooyoung forced a polite smile. Thank you for coming. I heard we had a guest, but I didn't know it would be you. Please make yourself at home. Her mother interjected again. Jihoon has offered to take you somewhere nice. I'm sure it's an amazing restaurant. Jihoon chuckled softly. Actually, I thought of a better place on my way here. If it's all right, will you join me, Yooyoung? As they left the house, Yooyoung finally spoke. I'm sorry about earlier. I didn't know my mother contacted you. I had no idea she would suddenly invite you to our home. Jihoon shook his head, his expression kind. It's not something you need to apologize for. Besides, thanks to her, I got to see you sooner. That's a win for me. His voice grew thoughtful. I hate things that are uncertain. I prefer fixed answers and definite outcomes. He glanced at her meaningfully. Our relationship, however, is clear as day. Her pulse quickened. I don't have anything to say, she murmured, avoiding his gaze. Jihoon leaned closer, his tone light but firm. If you have something on your mind, it's better to say it out loud. Keeping things in only makes them harder later. Her voice was barely above a whisper. But what could I say? I have no power. I can neither refuse nor argue. I have to do what I'm told. Jihoon's eyes softened. You rejected me twice, remember? I asked for your hand in marriage, and you said no. Normally, in relationships, the one being courted has the upper hand. That would be you. His expression turned serious. But we're not like other couples. Her heart sank. And why is that? His gaze locked onto hers. We went on a date, we kissed, and at night, we did what ordinary couples do. Jihoon. She interrupted, her cheeks burning. Please stop talking about that night. I'm begging you. Please keep it a secret. Jihoon smirked. Of course. But you're right. It wasn't a date. We just happened to meet. His teasing tone made her nerves flare. Where are we going anyways? She asked cautiously. Jihoon smiled mysteriously. There's something I want to do. Her stomach flipped at his cryptic answer. Something he wants to do? Don't tell me it's that again. Jihoon chuckled, leaning slightly closer. Don't get so tense just because I'm near you. The more you do, the less I want to leave you alone. As Yooyoung walked alongside Jihoon, she couldn't help but ask, are we really just going for a walk? Jihoon raised an eyebrow, amused. Did you think I'd do something to you here in public? Her cheeks flushed. But last time, you kissed me right in front of my house. He smirked, his tone teasing. Then next time, should I live up to your expectations? I never expected anything like that. She stammered. That's too bad. Jihoon's mischievous grin didn't waver as they continued. When they reached their destination, Yooyoung looked around in surprise. Isn't this Hankook University? Jihoon nodded. It's your alma mater and mine. Although I entered earlier than you, so we didn't have any classes together. Yooyoung hesitated. That's true, but I didn't socialize much in school. I probably wouldn't have noticed even if we had crossed paths. Jihoon chuckled softly. Come to think of it, you majored in law, didn't you? Did the matchmaker tell you that I studied economics? No, she paused, recalling an old rumor. I actually heard about you back then. There was talk about a really popular upperclassman in the economics department, a chaebol who was handsome and wealthy. They called him the economics major Appa. Jihoon's expression didn't change, though his eyes glinted with amusement. That was me. She nodded shyly. I believe so. It's not every day you hear about someone like that. I see, Jihoon said with a small smirk. So you've been hearing about me for years? Yooyoung bit her lip, feeling the difference between them grow more pronounced. He's handsome, wealthy, and confident, everything I'm not. Did you know me back then? Jihoon asked suddenly. She shook her head.
No.
I never saw you. As they walked across campus, Yooyoung noticed people glancing their way, whispering. If I had seen him before, there's no way I would have forgotten, she thought. They stopped outside a building, and Jihoon gestured toward it. We've arrived. She looked at him curiously. What are we doing here? A friend of mine from the track and field team works here. He said we could visit the gym. Yooyoung blinked. I've never been to the gym before, even when I was in school. Jihoon raised an eyebrow. Really? Never.
No.
All I did was go to the library. I had to study for the bar exam. Jihoon smiled, intrigued. When you were younger, you did track and field, didn't you? And then you gave it all up to focus on studying. I wonder what you do now. Yooyoung glanced around, her voice quiet. I haven't seen people running like this in so long. Jihoon returned moments later. I talked to the staff. They said you can come and run whenever you want. Her eyes widened slightly. Oh, but I'm wearing heels. Should I get a pair of sneakers for you now? He offered. She shook her head quickly.
No.
I'm not planning to run. I haven't done that in years. Jihoon studied her for a moment, noticing the faint determination in her gaze despite her words. She looks like she's ready to race any moment now, he thought, smirking. As Jihoon stepped away to grab coffee, Yooyoung overheard murmurs from the people around. She must be the fastest runner, someone said. She's probably a short-distance runner, another chimed in. You can tell by the way she's built. Jihoon returned with coffee, his tone light. You know, short-distance runners have powerful thighs because they need explosive strength. Long-distance runners, on the other hand, are leaner. He stopped suddenly, realizing he might be boring her.
Oh, sorry.
I got carried away. Yooyoung shook her head. No, it's fun. It's actually very interesting. Jihoon smiled warmly, his curiosity about her only deepening. There are so many things I still want to know about her, he thought, as they continued their quiet yet companionable walk through the campus. Jihoon's mother paced angrily in the living room, her voice sharp with frustration. How dare Sunwoo fashion summon my son to their house? This is absurd. Jihoon, seated nearby, glanced up calmly. What's wrong, mother? Her expression darkened. The matchmaker contacted me last night. That girl's mother wants you to come to her house because she insists on meeting you. Can you believe the audacity? Ordering you around like that. She huffed, her indignation growing. We haven't even decided if you're marrying her daughter, yet she acts as though we're already tied to them. That woman is utterly ridiculous. Jihoon leaned back, unfazed. Yooyoung said she didn't want to marry me, but her mother seems determined. His mother scoffed. That family is far less influential than ours, and the mother clearly has no manners. I can't believe the matchmaker set you up with someone like this. She paused, her tone critical. What did you think of their daughter? Not that impressive, right? Jihoon hesitated, then replied, She's really pretty. His mother froze mid-rant. What? Pretty? Ignoring her surprise, Jihoon stood. Please let them know I'll be there on time tomorrow. And let me know what gift would be appropriate. He nodded politely. Good night, mother. The next day, Jihoon observed Yooyoung's mother with a sharp eye. Her warm demeanor toward him was a stark contrast to the cold, disdainful glances she cast at her daughter. It was subtle but undeniable. No wonder Yooyoung is so timid, he thought grimly. Later, as the meeting concluded, Yooyoung turned to Jihoon with a polite smile. Thank you. I had a great time today. Jihoon responded smoothly. The pleasure was all mine. But her smile faded as she added, now that we're done, I hope you won't come back here anymore. Jihoon raised an eyebrow. Why? Her voice dropped, tinged with regret. I didn't know you were my blind date. If I had, I wouldn't have done something so foolish the night before. You don't want to marry someone like me, a woman who had a one-night stand. He chuckled softly, his gaze steady. If one-night stands are a crime, then I'm an accomplice. After all, I spent that night with you. Yooyoung's face turned crimson, but Jihoon continued, his tone playful. Don't act like we didn't enjoy it. That would be a lie. She stammered. That's not why I'm rejecting you. He tilted his head. Then do you dislike me? Of course not, she admitted quietly. I just find it difficult to be around you. Jihoon leaned in, his voice low. But other men are easy? Her thoughts spiraled. Jihoon isn't like other men. He has this power over me, lifting me up like a wave only to crash me back down. It's overwhelming. Jihoon studied her intently. You know, you're the most difficult woman I've ever met. It was my first time proposing, and you rejected me outright. You said you had fun, yet told me not to see you again. That's why I find you so hard to figure out. He took her hand gently, his voice softening. And that's because I want you to like me. Yooyoung's heart raced. He thinks I'm difficult? He doesn't seem to have any trouble dealing with me. Not when we met at the cafe, or when I declined his proposal. She hesitated. But maybe even for someone like him, rejection stings after a while. Jihoon's voice interrupted her thoughts. Don't worry. I like you, Yooyoung. I like everything about you. Even when you play hard to get, when you get nervous, or when you look at me like you're expecting something. It's all you. Her resolve wavered. I should push him away. But the way he speaks, the way he sees me, it makes my head spin. Jihoon's lips curled into a smile. Yooyoung, let's do something more exciting next time. His words lingered in the air, leaving Yooyoung unsure of where she stood, but undeniably drawn to him. Yooyoung stepped into her home, her thoughts swirling. As she closed the door, her mother greeted her warmly. You're back, sweetie. Did you have a good time? Yooyoung blinked in surprise. Sweetie, she thought. Was she waiting for me? Out loud, she replied hesitantly, yes. Her mother's eyes lit up with curiosity. I'm dying to know, how did it go? What did he say? Does he like you? Jihoon's words echoed in Yooyoung's mind. I like you, Yooyoung. She nodded. I think so. Her mother clapped her hands together, her excitement palpable. Good, good. He came all this way without any complaints, and judging by how he smiled at you, he seems very interested. He even kissed you last time right in front of our house. Yooyoung felt her cheeks flush, but her mother wasn't finished. Why did you come home so early? You should have stayed out all night and made him yours. Yooyoung's stomach twisted. I can't believe a mother would say something like that, she thought bitterly. The secret of her one-night stand with Jihoon burned in her chest. What would she say if I told her it happened before the blind date, just because I wanted to meet someone before getting tied into an arranged marriage? Her mother's voice snapped her back. Why aren't you answering me? Don't you understand? In this day and age, no one stays with someone just because they've spent the night together. You could even, her voice lowered conspiratorially, just skip the birth control and seal the deal. Yooyoung stared at her in disbelief as she continued. I just don't understand why the handsome son of MGH Group CEO would be interested in someone like you. The words cut deeper than Yooyoung expected, but her mother pressed on, undeterred. You have to make him yours, Yooyoung. You won't get another chance like this. It's a heaven-sent opportunity.
Got it.
For some reason, her mother's tone was gentler today, almost affectionate, a rarity in Yooyoung's life. But she knew better. This kindness wasn't genuine. It was because her mother needed her to marry Jihoon. Yooyoung took a deep breath. Mother, I have to tell you something. Her mother frowned. What is it? The words caught in Yooyoung's throat, but she forced them out. I'm not going to marry him. Her mother's expression darkened. What?
I,
I don't think I can do it, Yooyoung admitted. Her mother's eyes narrowed. I knew it. He doesn't like you, does he? Yooyoung shook her head.
no, it's not that.
It's just, I can't go through with it. Can't go through with it? Are you out of your mind? Her mother's voice rose sharply. You're going to reject him?
What kind of nonsense is that?
Your father needs this marriage to secure a contract with MD. But even if I don't marry Jihoon, father's company will be fine, Yooyoung argued. It's strong enough to survive. I'll just go on another blind date. How dare you say that? Her mother cut her off, her voice seething with anger. What don't you like about him? He's absolutely perfect. I don't understand why you think he would like someone like you, but that doesn't matter. You must marry him. Yooyoung's voice cracked as she tried to explain. I just want to marry someone ordinary, someone who won't make me feel so small. I don't want to constantly wonder what he thinks of me or whether he likes me at all. Her mother's glare turned icy. Do you think you're that important, Yooyoung? Stop being selfish. This isn't about you. It's about our business, our family. You must marry him, even if he despises you. Yooyoung's heart sank as her mother's words crushed any lingering hope she had. I knew it, she thought bitterly. Even mother thinks I'm not good enough for him. She doesn't care about my happiness, only about the business. The room fell silent, save for the sound of Yooyoung's racing heartbeat. Her mother's anger simmered, her expression unyielding. What's going on? Yooyoung wondered, feeling the weight of the moment press heavily on her. Haeyoung arrived home to find her mother fuming. Haeyoung, you're home. Can you believe this? Yooyoung refuses to marry the man she went on a blind date with. It's a golden opportunity. Her mother was outraged, and Haeyoung could sense the tension building. Humph, it's absolutely absurd, she muttered. Yooyoung's mother continued to vent, but Haeyoung barely registered the words. So, Yooyoung went on a blind date? She asked absently. Don't mind her, Mom.
You know how she is.
I'm tired. I just want to eat and go to bed, Haeyoung said, her voice carrying an exhausted tone. Her mother seemed concerned. Tired? Why, did you have a lot of work? It's because I'm carrying all these heavy things, Haeyoung replied, glancing at the bags in her hands. Give them to me. Her mother immediately ordered the housekeeper to prepare dinner. Since Haeyoung is tired, make something warm for her. Haeyoung couldn't help but feel isolated. I feel like I don't exist in this family, she thought, but quickly reminded herself if I marry Jihoon, those are just useless thoughts. I know that. I know this, but... Just then her phone rang. Hello? It's me, Cha Jihoon. Her heart skipped a beat as she answered, though she was unsure why he was calling. Did you get home safely? He dropped me off. Why would he check up on me? Yooyoung thought, but something inside her stirred as she wondered, if I marry him, will my mother forgive me? Will she love me like she does Haeyoung? Yooyoung hesitated, then spoke from her heart. Jihoon, do you still want to marry me? His response was calm and steady. I'll accept your proposal. The conversation ended quickly, but the weight of it hung over Yooyoung. She didn't expect to feel relief, but she did. Later, Jihoon reflected on their call. He could feel her nervousness through her trembling breath. She had been pushing him away all this time, but now, unexpectedly, she was agreeing to marry him. It was probably an impulsive decision, Jihoon thought, intrigued by her sudden shift. She's more stubborn than I thought, and definitely not someone who gives in easily. But she must have changed her mind because of her family. Whatever her reasons, he wasn't about to let the opportunity slip away. I have no intention of losing this chance, Jihoon resolved. At work, Jihoon's focus remained sharp despite his personal life. I think the domestic business team will upload the documents regarding the new duty-free bidding today, he told Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee nodded, confirming the progress. Do you have any other questions? No. Everything has been wrapped up, Jihoon said. Make sure everything proceeds smoothly. Just as he was about to leave, he added, Oh, Mr. Lee, I need to tell you something. Mr. Lee looked up, curious. Go ahead. I'm getting married, Jihoon said casually. Mr. Lee blinked, confused. Wait, what? You're getting married? Jihoon chuckled lightly. Yes, I'm going to marry the woman I went on a blind date with recently. Mr. Lee stared at him, surprised. A blind date? Who are you talking about? The last one, how is it? Mr. Lee asked, clearly trying to recall the details. It was all right, Jihoon answered, shrugging. Mr. Lee raised an eyebrow. Just 2 times? And you're going to marry her right away instead of dating her first? Jihoon nodded. Yes, I'm marrying the daughter of Sunwoo Fashion CEO, not the one from MGH. Mr. Lee's eyes widened. Wait a minute. I know her. She dated YP Industries' Han Jae-woo. Jihoon's expression shifted slightly. That's the one. Jihoon was taken aback when Mr. Lee mentioned Sunwoo Fashion CEO's daughter. Wait a minute. I know her. She dated Han Jae-woo from YP Industry, Mr. Lee said, his voice laced with recognition. Han Jae-woo was the eldest son of YP Industries' CEO and their alumnus. He was known for his frequent club visits and lavish parties, which were often held in the suites of Mr. Lee's hotel. I don't think that's right, Mr. Lee added, though unsure. Jihoon remembered hearing from Jae-woo that his ex had been the daughter of Sunwoo Fashion CEO. Jae-woo had claimed that she was clumsy, easily nervous, and unsure how to react when touched. He also mentioned that she wasn't very experienced with men, which left Jihoon questioning her past relationships. I'm pretty sure they've already broken up, Jae-woo had said. But Mr. Lee was insistent. That's definitely not her. I'm sure it was someone else. Still, Jihoon couldn't shake the thought of this mysterious woman. She's the type of person who can't do anything bad, even if she tried, Jihoon thought. It seemed that Yooyoung's family had a different reputation than what Jae-woo described. He continued, Isn't she the design manager at Sunwoo Fashions? Mr. Lee asked. No, she's a lawyer, Jihoon corrected. Mr. Lee paused, his curiosity piqued. Wait, does Sunwoo Fashion CEO have another daughter? Yes, he is too, Jihoon confirmed. It dawned on him that if Jae-woo knew Yooyoung's sister well, then he might know a lot about their family dynamics. Call him for me. I want to ask him something. Jihoon grew reluctant to share more, but Mr. Lee persisted. What kind of woman is she that you're willing to marry her? Jihoon's voice lowered. I don't want to tell you yet. Just call Jae-woo for me. Meanwhile, Yooyoung was overwhelmed with thoughts about Jihoon. Despite her attempts to push him away, her heart fluttered every time he reached out. Why is that? Why do I miss him? She wondered. She continued to ponder her feelings. When I think about Jihoon, I have strange thoughts. When will I be free to meet him? What will I say if he asks why I suddenly agreed to marry him? I have nothing to say. I can't tell him it was just a rash decision made out of frustration after seeing how close my mother and sister are. She couldn't shake the thought that maybe she had made a mistake. I think I'll be very busy this week. It shouldn't even matter what he thinks about me, she concluded, trying to focus on work. Later, Jihoon texted her. I miss you, Yooyoung. Yooyoung felt a pang of sadness. I'm sorry. I'll call you when I'm free. But it was hard to ignore how nervous she felt whenever Jihoon reached out. In another part of the world, Jae-woo was unreachable. Jae-woo, where are you? Jihoon asked, growing frustrated after being unable to reach him the whole day. Jae-woo finally picked up. I'm in Buenos Aires. The yacht I've been eyeing is finally being auctioned off. Jihoon wasn't too interested in the details, but continued. I heard YP Industries not doing well financially, but their heir is out there buying yachts? Jae-woo shrugged. It doesn't really matter to me. What do you want? Jihoon explained, I heard you dated Sunwoo Fashion CEO's oldest daughter for a long time. I need to ask you a few things about them. Jae-woo paused, then laughed. Kim Hae-young? Yeah, I dated her for a while. What do you want to know? Jihoon asked about her family and Jae-woo warned, don't get involved with the Kim family. They're not worth it. I dated Hae-young because she was pretty and came from money, but she's arrogant and spoiled. There are rumors that after we broke up, she dated around a lot. I'm pretty sure she won't have any blind dates anytime soon, so she's completely different from Yooyoung? Jihoon asked, processing the information. Jae-woo confirmed. Yeah. And her mom is a pain. She spoils Hae-young and kept asking me what I was going to do for her after marriage. It was like she expected a written plan or something. You can do better. Stay away from that family. Jihoon wasn't sure how to feel about all of this. That's kind of harsh, he said, but Jaewoo quickly changed the subject. The auction's about to start. Let's meet up when I'm back in Seoul. As Jihoon hung up, he realized the information he had just gotten was not helpful at all. It seemed to focus more on Yooyoung's sister than the details he had wanted. Later, when he arrived home, the staff asked if he needed his car brought around. No, tell them to go home. I'll drive myself, he replied, his mind still preoccupied. As he stepped out, one of the staff asked, but where are you going that's making you smile like that? Jihoon smiled to himself. I have something fun to take care of, he replied, feeling the weight of the decision he was about to make.